Hi folks, welcome back. In this installment, the project is running fuel line. I got the gas tank put in last week, so this week I'm running the lines to it. I have this rubber hose here that I'm going to be attaching the old to the new. There's one section of the old line that goes through the front part of the frame that's still in good shape, so I'm going to run with that. The rest I'm going to do with this 3/8 NICOP line, going back to the tank. And I have some of these fittings. I have some unions here, and I have the 3/8 tube nuts here. So I'm going to be flaring the ends of these because it'll probably be in two pieces, most likely. I have this 1/4 inch line that I'm going to use as vent tubing. So once I'm done with that, that'll be going to the back of the tank, and the opening will be near where the gas cap is, so that way it's accessible in case it gets plugged up. I'll show that as I go along. And so here we go. This is the project for today. Okay, I have this set up. I'm flaring this. It's a 3/8 line. And what you do is you set the height of this with this button like that. And then you turn the button over. You put it in like that. And then you put the C-clamp on that, as I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, so that's just finger tight. What I like to do, because these things are, you know, it's not the strongest tool ever made. I didn't buy the top of the line brand. But now you tighten this down. Okay, this is tight. As you can see, the button is almost touching this part here. Now I'm going to release it and you'll see what it looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like after the first step. There's another step to go, which is to put this down here like this. I have WD-40 on there, so it's slippery. If you're doing brake line, you would want to use a little brake fluid because you don't want to contaminate your brake lines and fittings. But now this goes in. Poorly. There we go. Same idea. Okay, that's tight. As you can see, you don't want to over tighten because you can cause it to split. Now this NICOP is like really forgiving with this compared to other kinds of metal. I've never tried aluminum line. I know stainless is really mean. Regular steel lines are pretty mean. So this is what this looks like now. Now I'll take this out and I'll bring the fitting up to it and you'll see that it fits. Okay, so I've loosened things up. Trying to do this one-handed as best I can so I can show the process as well as possible. So as you can see, there's some marks on it where the machine was holding on to it. And here is the fitting pulled up to it, and it fits it the way it's supposed to. So that's a double flare. That's what I'm using for to couple the pieces of gas line together. This is what you use for a union to go together. These are actually legal for brake lines, at least in my state and probably most. Compression fittings, however, are not. So you don't want to use those. I could use compression fittings on my gas line, but I don't have any 3/8, so I have no choice anyway. But this is what I'm doing. This goes on here like this. Hard to do with one hand, but I will make the attempt. Okay, that's what that looks like put together. And so on the next piece of line, it'll be joining with this and moving forward. Okay, up in here is the first piece of line installed. Rubber line joining this to the original outlet for the tank. And it goes like this. You got to make sure it's out of the way of the suspension. It has plenty of room there. That's not going to touch. It goes through the cross member like that. I'm using a piece of rubber line as a isolator so that it doesn't wear through the metal pipe. And there's the fitting where I'm going to hook the next piece of line to and work my way forward toward the engine. Okay, so here we are with this coupling here. I got this together, I bent it around. It's up in through here where it's not going to get into the suspension or anything. I'm going to put another piece of rubber gas line here to keep this from rubbing because it's going to want to do that. You know, it's not too bad right now, but going down the road, things will rub together. This is the way it is. Okay, so now we're going forward off into the distance, so I'll go down to the other end where it hooks up to the next piece. Okay, here we are into the original clip here, going above the cross member and heading forward still. And this is where it stops. The original line is here, and it originally had a rubber hose here where this is coupling together, so that's not actually wrong. I used a long piece so that there's plenty of overlap between the pieces, and plus this rubber line, the steel line is out to here, but I don't want the steel line rubbing onto the frame, so I ran it right up through to give it some protection. So that's it. The gas line is in. Okay, the next step in this adventure is to deal with this vent tube. What I'm gonna do, because you don't want fuel sloshing and leaking out of it, is it's gonna be suspended up here near the floorboard. I have to get I'm probably gonna drill a hole and hook onto it there with some sort of a fastener, and I'm going to come back down, and it's going to basically go toward the back of the car, and I'm going to end up using NICOP line to make the rest of the distance, and the opening is going to be approximately where the filler is, and then that way, with it like this, it's going to have a really hard time. I mean, when you're hard braking, it'll probably try to slosh forward, but it won't be able to make it up that high. That's the idea behind this strategy. And then on acceleration, of course, the gasoline is going toward the back of the tank, so it won't be bothering this anyway. And to me, I think that's the easiest way to do it without, you know, valves and junk like that. This is just going to be an open tube. And I think it's going to work fine. Okay, here's the vent line going up and around. The topmost point is well above the tank. It's 1/4 inch, so in hindsight, I might have been better off doing the 1/2 inch, but I didn't have enough 1/2 inch line to do it. So this is what it is, and I'll just see if I have fuel starvation issues, I'll know it's too small. But anyway, this is the way it goes. It goes around. I'm using rubber hose to protect things from chafing. This is solid line all the way through here. And in here, just out of sight, it connects to a rubber hose, which goes up and around. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, up here is the vent line coming off the tank, going up. It goes through here. So this is a good 6-7 inches above the tank. And then it goes back. And it travels above the lip of this tank back here to where it connects to that steel line that I just showed you, the NICOP line, I mean, and then goes out that way. This should eliminate the chance of fuel sloshing and being a problem there. It does have a vent, so that's good. What I'll probably do is when I hook up the fuel pump, I might hook up a clickety-clack pump and see how long it takes to pump a gallon of gas with this, and then uncap this and do it again, to see if it pumps a gallon faster with this uncapped. That'll tell me whether the vent line is being a restriction or not. Okay, there's a gallon jug set up with a clock. Underneath here I have the clickety-clack pump set up. You probably can't see it very well. I'm going to pull it through the line and see how long it takes. I'm going to do a 1-minute run and see how much gasoline it pumps. Okay, that was 1 minute and it pumped about the amount that you see. And move this out of the way. This is a clickety-clack pump, so that clearly isn't enough to feed a very fast car. But the next step is I'm going to mark that, pour it back in the tank. I'm going to put a cap on the tank and then see how much difference it makes in flow with just the vent giving it air. Okay, now we're on take 2, so we're going to start this when we get to the 30-second mark. So once I'm done with this with a comparative measure, then I'm going to try and measure how much fuel actually was pumped. It looks like it's flowing pretty good. I'm not seeing a remarkable difference visually. So I think the vent is probably big enough, but we're going to see in a minute. Okay, I think it was a little less, but let's set it up on the table where it's flat so then we can tell. Okay, so as it turns out, once I put this on the table and settled down, it landed exactly on the line from the first test with the cap off. So what this is telling me is that the vent is not making any difference at all to this clickety-clack pump. Now, of course, the pump that I'm using in the car isn't the same. It's going to be that Holly one down there, so it flows a lot more than the clickety-clack does. But the take-home point here is that the vent is working, and so that Holly pump will have no problem feeding this engine, because it's I think that was an 80-gallon-an-hour pump, and to feed a 300-horse engine only takes like 25 gallons. So I think I'm in good shape here. I'm not going to have trouble with venting. So now I'm going to measure this just out of curiosity. It doesn't matter, but I want to see exactly what that clickety-clack pump does. So what I have is this used paint cup, and it measures up to 26 ounces. So that means I can take 2 or 3 tries to do this, but I can find out exactly how many ounces of gas I have in there. So I'm going to rinse this out a little bit better, and I will measure that. Alright, so here we go. I have a funnel here for my gas can. I'm going to start measuring this. So the first try. There's 26 ounces. So I'll pour this back in my gas can. In there. Okay, so second try. I didn't think I'd do it twice. That's another 26 ounces. Okay, so that's 52 ounces so far, plus whatever's left in this junk. Okay. About 3 ounces, so 55 ounces. So when I get ready with my cup here, There. Now I'll get my calculator out and I'll calculate it out. All right. "55 ounces a minute times 60 minutes equals 3,300 ounces divided by 128 because that's a gallon. Okay, this clickety-clack pump will pump 25.78 gallons an hour. So now I know for sure that 25.78 gallons per hour will flow through the tank unrestricted. And I also know that the pump that I'm actually using on the engine is much higher than the clickety-clack pump. So now I have no doubt at all that my fuel system can feed the engine. And so that takes care of this project. Okay, so we got the lines all in. We have the fuel line in, we have the vent in. I talked a little bit about my concerns with the vent, but honestly I don't think it's really going to be that much of a problem. So now I'm at the point I can put the rear bumper on, and I've only got one more thing before I can put the front bumper on, and then I have to install the driver's mirror because I took that off, and literally that's kind of what's it before I can back it out of here. One thing that I ran into, this fan is like 16 inches. I saved it off the Firebird and I thought it would fit. Well, it doesn't. I can't get it to go in there in any way that's sensible. So I ordered a smaller fan. So I'm waiting for that. Waiting for a few other little doodads, new lug nuts, because the ones I have won't clear the center caps. And so that's really what's it. So now it's a matter of getting the Chrysler moved out of the way. So I'm working on that. So hopefully before too long, I'm going to be out on the road doing a video on my first drive. It was pretty close. This is how much 3/8 line I have left. I'm surprised. I didn't think I was going to have enough. I was worried I'd have to order more, but I had just enough. And that's a good thing. So that concludes this one, and we'll move on to the next thing.